guys, it's Michael Levine here. This one's going to be for the owners. The subject today is about an exit strategy for your salon. This subject is a little bit close to me right now because for the first time in the history of our company, we have closed a location without the plan of expanding or moving to something else. We've every time we've closed a location, it's because we've moved into a larger location. And we've opened like 9 or 10 salons over the last 18 years that my wife and I started our company. And this year was the first time we've ever downsized. I got really, really lucky. I was able to actually sell the location to somebody, and we actually got some money for it, and we did okay. And the company that bought our salon, they weren't buying our company. They weren't buying the brand name. They weren't buying the client list. They weren't buying our computers. They weren't even buying the phone number. They just simply bought the lease. They bought the lease and they bought the space, like the renovation. Now they're going to do a renovation as well. So really the hard assets that they bought of this place were the used furniture, which really isn't that valuable, and the lease, which can be valuable. So it got me thinking a little bit about some salon owners that have maybe ended their salon ownership and walked out with nothing, and how to maybe avoid that, because there's a lot of salon owners who, by the time they finish their salon, if you're a salon owner, you're gonna at some point leave your salon. Like, your salon is going to close at some point. And a lot of them, the vast majority of them, it seems, just simply close the doors and walk away with nothing. So I thought I would sort of touch on a few stories and maybe what you can do to start thinking about how you can avoid that situation happening to you. So firstly, I'm just going to tell a couple of stories. For me, 2 of the salons that I've acquired over the years, I should say we have acquired, my wife and I have acquired, 2 of the salons we've acquired over the years were both previously salons. The first one, the owner had come to me and tried to sell it to me for about $30,000, and she loved this salon. She had been there for about 15 years and had put her heart and soul into it. Well, I actually didn't value any of what her renovations were, but I did want her space. Now, she had approached me with a few months left on the lease, and what I did was just simply wait, and I talked to the landlord a little bit behind her back, and I knew she was leaving, and I could just kind of waited her out. And nobody made an offer on the space, so I was able to go in and strike up a deal with the landlord, and I got her space for nothing. Now, to be fair, I didn't take any of her equipment. I didn't want any of her stuff, and we ended up gutting the place anyways. There was literally nothing that we were able to salvage from the space, so it wasn't like I took advantage of this person by waiting her out. But ultimately, she had tried to sell this salon that she felt there was a tremendous amount of value to, and there wasn't, because nobody wanted it. The second time this happened, we have a location called Caramel. Well, previously it was a different brand under a different owner, and it was directly across the street from one of my locations. Well, one day their lights went out at 4 p.m. on a Friday, and what I had found out the next day was the owner had gone in that morning and said, "Today's our last day," and they closed the salon. Now, we had been beside these guys for, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years. They were or across the street from them. They were our competition. They were a really, really busy, booming hair salon, and we saw a huge amount of action. These guys were busier than we were, and they had a really, they were really cool. And from the outside looking in, it was they were a very enviable situation, and the salon was gorgeous, like absolutely stunning. The guy had put so much money into this place, and as I said, the doors closed, the lights went off. I ended up going in and paying this guy's back rent. He hadn't been paying the rent, and not only that, none of the staff, when he closed it, none of the staff got paid for the last month. I mean, as I said, from the outside looking in, his situation looked like it was really, really good. But from the inside, there was clearly a lot happening financially that nobody really knew about. And the fact that none of the employees got paid and the rent wasn't being paid is sort of testament to that. So I went in, paid his back rent, and walked in to a fully renovated, beautiful, amazing salon. I changed it, furnished it myself, and turned it into our brand Caramel, and it took off, and we did really, really well with it. So that was 2 salons that I acquired where the owner had put their heart and soul into a business and basically walked away with nothing. Recently, this happened again. A very large company, I don't know if they're large staff-wise, maybe a dozen people, but a really highly respected company. I didn't actually know these guys in any way. I'm just talking about stories that are local. But about 2 months ago, I had just found out, I just found this out last week, but 2 months ago, the owner went in and said, we're closing tomorrow. So he had given the staff 48 hours notice. That's about a dozen people, a very, very highly respected salon, highly regarded. This type of situation happens all the time. I'll do one more and then I'll kill this. The biggest, most famous salon franchise brand at the high-end level in the world. We had 2 locations of them in Vancouver. They're both now gone. At some point, he had probably 60 staff in his 2 locations, and I'm guessing he'd spent over $1 million on his build-outs for these locations. Anyways, eventually, he was down to 1 location through various circumstances, and he had tried to sell that location to me. And the price that he had offered me was a bargain. And I kind of should have done it, but I was actually tied up with the location that I just sold. I had just bought that one. So he came back to me about 6 months later and cut that price in half. So it was a good deal at the original price. Now it was a steal. And I still wasn't really in a position to do it. And because I've seen this happen a few times before, I thought, well, this dude's getting close to the end of his lease. And as much as I like the guy and respect the guy, if I really, really wanted the space, I could probably get it for nothing. And sure enough, we had a month left on his lease, and the realtor was now reaching out to me, and I could have got the place for $10,000 fully furnished. And we're talking about a 2,000 square foot salon with a $400,000 build out that had just been done 6 years earlier. This is one of the nicest salons I had ever seen. I still kick myself for not taking it, because right now it's one of those medical marijuana dispensaries, and it's such a shame because it was really, really incredible business in it. And for him, he loved this location, and I felt kind of sick about it. I felt sick about it for him. And I feel sick for the industry that they've lost a really, really good owner. This guy's now a hairdresser at a salon. He's a hairdresser at a highly regarded salon, but he's no longer in salon ownership. And I'm guessing that there's probably a degree of bitterness with it. I know I would be really, really bitter if I was him. The common thread in a lot of these situations is the owners. Again, I don't know everybody's financial situation, but I have opened several salons myself, and I've learned a little bit. One of the key things that you as an owner can do if you're opening a business is to spend as little as possible on your build out. Cheap out on your build out, because if you dig yourself this tremendously huge hole that now you have to try to climb out of, you're going to really quickly realize that the salon business is not a profitable one. It's, if you're profitable, chances are you're sitting between 3 and 5% profit, which is pathetic. It's an extremely low profit margin. And the vast majority of the salons that are sitting in that 3 to 5% profit margin also have the owner working in them behind the chair. So technically the business isn't profitable at all, because if the owner stepped away, chances are they wouldn't be profitable. The vast majority of salons are like this, where they're just barely breaking even, or they're maxing out at the 5%. That's not to say that you can't make more money in the hair business. There are plenty of salons that do extremely well, that the owners are not working in the salons, but usually they're larger salons and they've got a little bit of scale. But the average salon, the average 10-chair salon, chances are the owner is working in that location. So therefore that business is not actually a profitable business if the owner steps away. If you've not opened your salon yet, first of all, don't spend very much money on your build out. All your clients care about is a decent location, a clean environment. They don't care about your $10,000 chandelier. Secondly, start thinking about an exit strategy from the moment that you actually open the business, or before you even open the business. Think about creating a sellable business. A sellable business doesn't rely on you working in that business. So you as the owner, do your time in there, and if you love doing hair and you always want to do hair, great. Do as much hair as you want, but the money that you bring into that salon, kind of don't count it as part of salon revenue, because if you want to create a sellable business, you've got to create something that's profitable, that another owner can walk in, purchase it, and be profitable without you there, because chances are you're not going to want to be working in the place that you've just sold. By creating a business that's sellable, that means you've created a rock solid business that's going to be profitable, as opposed to what most people do in our industry, which is simply a busy hairdresser at a salon decided they could do it better than the owner, decided the owner was taking half of their money, decided the owner was getting rich off your back, so you went and opened your own salon. And then you find yourself in these pitfalls that the vast majority of salon owners do. Another thing that you can do to maybe avoid that sort of tailspin that, let's face it, salons have a life cycle. Your salon, if it's really, really hot today, is not going to be hot in 10 years. And the proof of this is just simply think back 10 years to the salons that were really big in your city. Think back 20 years to the salons that were kind of the places to go in your city. And are they still in business? Do they still exist? Chances are most of them don't. Certainly there are going to be still a few that do, but most of them don't. So your salon is going to go through that too, whether it's because you're getting older and you don't have the energy anymore to put into the business. I know for me, as an example, we are now down to 2 salons and 2 academies, and I'm not in the salon the way I used to be. I used to be in the salon 6 days a week. I got a couple of kids now. I can't be there as often. I live out in the burbs now. It's a 45-minute drive for me to get into the city. This is probably going to be your future to a degree as well, that you're not going to be able to dedicate the same amount of time to your business that you once did. So another strategy there, if you want to keep things alive, is maybe bring in a partner. Maybe if you've sort of stepped away and things, you're missing that energy of a vibrant owner who is really, really fighting for it, maybe bring in a partner that'll take a little bit of the pressure off of you and revitalize your business. So that's a really, really good option for you as well. Another thing, if you are debating selling your business at some point, understand that you've got to sell it when you've got a lot of time left on the lease, because that shows financial stability to a potential buyer. If there's nothing left on the lease, then the buyer's like, well, first of all, I don't know what the new lease rate is going to be. And secondly, they have nothing to purchase from you because there's no business there. There's no business left anymore. There's other than used furniture. So you want to sell it when there's a lot of time left on the lease and when the business is doing really, really well. And that's a weird one for hairdressers to think about, because for us, when our salon business is doing really, really well, we think about expanding. And expanding is not always the best idea. Sometimes the best thing to do is to just absolutely maximize your space and open it 7 days a week and run 2 shifts and start to really, really create a massive amount of revenue. Focus on the areas that are going to bring you the most profit, like retail, and developing young talent and creating an amazing culture. And then when things are going really, really well, don't think about expanding, but think about maximizing that profit and think about what your exit strategy might be, because salons have a life cycle, as we talked about. You're in the fashion industry and you will not be fashionable at some point. Some salons transcend the life cycle, but not all. Most of them don't. You've got to really think about doing this while things are good, not while things are bad, because nobody wants to buy a sinking ship.
Darling, don't you go and cut your hair.